We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show, and if you have a question that you'd like to send in, send it via the WhatsApp, the email address ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively give us a call here on 0203 515 0199, and me and the Sheikh inshallah will be able to discuss and answer your question. I'm your host this evening, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are we doing this evening?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sheikh, my first question is in regards to returning products and so forth. Now, if an individual has exchanged the product, okay, so he wasn't happy with one product, he's gone back, he's exchanged it. Later he discovers that there's a fault with this product. And most likely it was there at the time of the exchange, but he didn't know about it or she didn't know about it. What are the rights of this person?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Well, when someone finds a fault in a product while purchasing that product, it is permissible for him to annul the transaction on the spot, so he can actually return the product and get a refund for it, or settle with the seller by reducing the amount of the cost of the product according to the cost of such faulty or partial faults of the products or items. However, if he learns or that the defect of the transaction, sometimes someone he knew that there's something wrong with it, but he just ignored it. He can't come back on the next 1 or 2 days and ask for the annulling the transaction, because the time is when you are there in that meeting where you can actually cancel that transaction. When the buyer and the seller agree upon a product, the seller will tell him that this is the product, have a look, you're happy with it, khalas, take it. If you see a fault in that product and you agree upon the transaction, you can't come back again and tell that I want a refund, I want to annul the transaction. So it depends the situation of where you have defined the fault in the product.
Excellent. Sheikh, I believe we have a question coming in from one of our viewers. Can an individual declare an oath in writing, and would it be valid? Oath, I'm assuming this is to do with nadhr or qasam and so forth. Can one do it via writing? Is it actually valid?
Well, the condition for the oath is that to be done verbally in uttering the oath itself. Therefore, it's not valid for the one to actually write that oath or make an intention in his heart. Yes, those who have difficulty in terms of speaking, they can use the sign language in order to show that they want to make this oath. Otherwise, it has to be done by verb.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Sheikhna, in the community, there's so many different projects going on, so many ambitions, so many plans. One of them always normally is that, we want to come together, raise money in order to build a Husainiyah. Now, if a group of individuals start to collect money and start to raise funds for Husainiyah, and people are donating, but later on they decide that actually, we're not going to build a Husainiyah, we're going to build a cultural center. Normally this happens because of planning permission and so forth, things get in the way. Are they actually allowed to do so?
Well, they need the consent from the donor, the one who contributed to this project, paid money and so forth. So they have to ask their permission in this case. Otherwise, they have to go back to the Ahkam SOS, the marji', the jurist, in order to ask for the consent or the permission from the Ahkam SOS.
Ah, okay. Interesting. MashaAllah. Shaykh, a question coming in from one of our viewers. What are the etiquettes for performing salah? What should we consider in terms of do's and don'ts? Actually, a very good question. The etiquettes of salah, Shaykh.
Basically, the one shouldn't approach the salah while they are feeling sleepy, so they try to waken themselves up, because otherwise you're not going to know what you are pronouncing and saying in the salah. Maybe even you lose yourself. Am I in the first rak'ah or fourth rak'ah? or first rak'ah or second rak'ah? So the one should be basically awake in the situation and know what he's saying. Also, the person who's praying should be not looking into the sky while doing the salah, looking at the position of the prostration or the turba, for example. Also, the one who's praying shouldn't be shaking or moving in the salah. The limbs, all the body parts should be stable. Stability is important in salah. Also, we have the mustahab act of wearing the aqiq ring, wearing perfume, with clean clothes and garments, approaching the salah, and other mustahabbat which can be found in the books of the fiqh.
Ahsan. Shaykh, another question coming from one of our viewers, again in regards to salah. How do we form the niyyah in salah?
We should know that every ibadah and worship requires a niyyah. You cannot initiate any ibadah, any act of worship without intention, without a niyyah. And the niyyah should be what? Seeking nearness to Allah Azza wa Jal, qurbatan Allah Ta'ala. Otherwise, they won't be saying that this individual is praying or he's exercising. Is he fasting or he's on diet? So you have to show before Allah Azza wa Jal that you are doing this act for His cause. Qurbatan Allah Ta'ala. That's how we should do the niyyah for these acts. Otherwise, other acts such as purifying a najis part of the body or the clothes, you don't need a niyyah, for example. You just wash it. If your hands is stained with blood, you have to wash it. If, for example, after using the toilet to do the tathir and purifying yourself, you don't need a niyyah for it. So the niyyah is mainly in the ibadah, in the worship, that you have to have this niyyah.
Okay, excellent. Shaykh, when it comes to business, there's many types of different businesses. There's many, for example, clothes business, carpet business, so forth, where they hold stock for more than a year. Now, if there's an individual who, let's say, has a recycling center, this person collects cans, plastic, mainly waste that people are throwing away, and he collects them together. He's going to intend to sell them on. If he holds on to these items for longer than a year, does this person have to pay khums? Now, I know His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir Najafi, I know he has a fatwa on this, he comments on this. What does he say?
His Eminence mentions that, yes, it is obligatory for the one to pay khums, because now this garbage, in other words, became now valuable items.
Yeah.
There's money in recycling these items and unwanted bottles and so forth. So anything that causes for the individual to receive, to gain income, غنمتم, as the Quran mentions, وَمَا غَنِمْتُمْ, to gain income and wealth, and the excess of that income, which remains at the end of the year unused, unspent, then the khums becomes wajib on this excess amount.
Shaykhna, today's day and age, and as you know, we're going through a lockdown right now. Many people will be watching different types of programs on television, some religious, some for entertainment and so forth. Some of these TV shows and programs, whether they're films, dramas, or documentaries, they discuss, promote illicit relationships which are haram. As Muslims, are we allowed to actually watch these sort of shows? I know His Eminence Sayyid Sistani, he has a comment on this. Fatwa, what does he say?
The Sayyid mentions that watching such movies mentioned is of course forbidden. a woman shouldn't be watching such immoral and indecent scenes, especially if it influences the viewers in terms of the moral aspects and akhlaq aspects. So the one should not and must not watch these movies or series. The Sayyid goes and he says that on a mandatory precaution, احتياط وجوبي, that watching such movies basically that has entirely these scenes of immorality and indecence is haram. So the one should avoid it.
Okay.
I mean, sadly, many of our youths and they watch these films, which has also the film is not a, let's say, an indecent film,
Okay.
an adult film, but there is an actress who is not wearing properly
Okay.
in terms of the clothing.
Inappropriately dressed.
So that's the issue, that we shouldn't watch such movies. We have to avoid it. And it's difficult to actually fast forward or ignore the scene because they want to see the whole scenes. So according to the Sayyid, he says that you're not allowed to watch such movies and you have to avoid it. Otherwise, the one will fall into the act of sin and haram.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, the next question in regards to from one of our viewers. When it comes to an individual who has both male and female genitalia, are they allowed to actually get married to both a male and a female at the same time?
No, it is not permissible for such individual to take both a husband and a wife. He either to be chosen to be as a woman or a man. You know, must be a selection in somehow that he either is a man or a woman. So he can't marry both. Otherwise, he would have committed haram with one of the sides. So if he is inclining to the female side, then he's female. She's female. If he is inclining to the male side, then he's a male. So he can't have both.
I see. Shaykhna, is it permissible for the females to use contraception? Because here in the West, and when contraception is discussed and taught to people, it's mainly to do with the males. With females, not so much. But are they allowed? There are some contraceptions available.
Yes, it is permissible for them to use such things. And overall, the issue is if it causes permanent infertility. So in this case, it's not allowed. Temporarily, that's fine, to prevent it temporarily, let's say a few months. But if it's for a long term, which is permanent, then it's not allowed. Also, if there's no haram associated as well.
Okay, thank you. Shaykh, next question I think is coming in from one of our viewers, I believe. The question is it permissible to transfer the fetus from the womb of the mother to an incubator and then transfer it from the incubator to the womb of a lady? So yeah, we do sometimes have issues with pregnancies. Sometimes women are not physically capable of going the whole distance when it comes to reproduction. So here's an instance where something like this would really help benefit in terms of couples wanting their own biological children. Islamically speaking, Shari'an, is this allowed and acceptable?
Yes, it is permissible as long as it doesn't cause harm or death to the child or the mother.
Okay.
They can actually use this method. It should be fine.
Okay, fantastic. Inshallah, we're going to go to a break shortly. Join us after the break as we continue to discuss more on Ahkam SOS. Join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show and we do take in your questions. So if you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it in via the WhatsApp. Send it in via the email address ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively give us a call here in the studio 0203 515 0199, and inshallah the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your question. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Shaykhna, the next question I have is in regards to the source of Islamic law when it comes to, obligations in an Islamic government?
Basically, the law is taken from the four sources of Islamic sources. Number one is the Holy Quran. Number two is the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as well. Number three is the consensus of the ulama, ijma'.
Yeah.
And number four is the aql, the rule of the reason in making such decisions. So yes, we go back to these four sources in order to extract the hukm of Shara.
You see, Shaykhna, we have many forms of, Sharia and so forth, and different types of authority. Some may be in charge of a state, some may be just a marja in charge of a delegation and so forth. But the marja'iyah, the Islamic authority that we have, do they have the authority to impose political systems upon the people?
Well, you see, the one should go back to the ulama with this regard, to the shura of the ulama, the fuqaha, in order to find out what is the duty of the Islamic government. It shouldn't be only run by one person. That's the problem we have in the Muslim government and Islamic countries, that there's always one person who's leading everything. And that's the problem, because this is how dictatorship is derived from these governments. So we have to go back to the ulama, to the scholars, to the experts in the fields of politics. We go back to the experts, negotiate with them, talk to them. And of course, as I've said, we go back to the source of the ahkam, the four sources of the sharia as well, to find out. So we have to go and speak to and negotiate and discuss with the experts in this field. You can't just run the country by yourself and declare that this is an Islamic country, for example. Otherwise, we end up like the ISIS and other extremist groups at the end of the day, in which they took everything in their hands without any negotiations, and they just went by themselves, and they reached this stage of bloodshed and extremism.
Sheikh, here in the West these days, it's quite normal for a lady to put on a little bit of makeup. Maybe it might just be mascara, eyeliner, and so forth. Maybe a little bit of foundation for beauty, and then to go out. She might go to the market or to the local shop or so forth. According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sistani, Hafadullah, what is his opinion? Can a lady do this?
Well, this is not permissible. The Sayyid mentions that if she wears makeup or anything similar, which is known to be as adornment, beauty, to common view, the uruf, then she must cover her face from the non-mahram and strangers. The Holy Quran is very clear with this regard. In Surah number 24, ayah 31, وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنْ, and do not reveal your adornment, your beautification, and so forth. You have to cover it. Sadly, today we see many of our sisters, who have a great hijab, but when it comes to the face and the makeup, then you see that there's a makeup on the face, sadly. Some of them, of course. So they have to be aware that this is haram according to all the ulama. All ulama would not allow. And even if you go back to this, Sunni ulama would also argue upon this fact and this fatwa that the woman is not allowed to put makeup and wear makeup on her face, because that attracts the opposite gender. The whole idea of hijab is to protect the dignity of the woman, to protect her situation, and to basically protect whatever might cause that she might be in a situation, in a dangerous situation, for example. Otherwise, if you see other countries that they have no hijab, lots of things, I don't want to mention some words, but a lot of crimes are committed in this way, just because that there's attraction from the other side.
I see, inshallah. We pray that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of our sisters out there. Shaykhna, who is a mujtahid? According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Shaykh Wahid Khorasani.
Basically, a mujtahid is the one who can understand his responsibilities and can extract the hukum from its sources, the hukum of the sharia from its sources, as mentioned, the four main sources. So this is a mujtahid who can reach the stage of the ability of understanding the riwayat, the narrations and the Holy Quran verses, and be able to reach a conclusion and be able to evaluate and issue a fatwa at the end of the day. But with, of course, deep knowledge, deep study in this field. It's not just 1 or 2 years or 4 years of degree or 2 years of masters and you become mujtahid. No, it's going to be a really long way for the one to reach the ijtihad. It's very hard, yeah.
I see. May Allah reward all our maraja that work so hard to get to that level of ijtihad, inshallah, that are helping with our daily Islamic issues that we have. The next question, Sheikh, I believe is from one of our viewers, and the question is: can we prostrate on loose soil or mattress or a pillow while praying?
The problem is that to prostrate on these items, it will cause instability in the sujood. So let's say your head will be bouncing on mattress, for example.
Okay.
So the salah would be void and batil in such case if there's no stability. I mentioned this in the beginning, that this stability is very important in salah. That when you do the sujood, it has to be on a hard wood or hard ground and so forth, where you can fully do the sujood without any movement, any bouncing of the head in and out. So it has to be stable.
Shaykhna, on sujood, I mean, we prostrate on a turba, and we are also allowed to prostrate on certain leaves, paper, wood, tissue, for example. What happens though if we lose that item of sujood? For example, if I put tissue down and I'm praying, and let's say some wind blows the tissue away, what do I do in that situation? There's nothing else that I can do sujood on.
I mean, try to find, in that few seconds, to find around you if there is like a tissue or a spare turba, or if there is let's say tree leaves, for example, piece of wood, anything that you can pray on, because we can't pray on other than the soil or the clay, which is the tree leaves, grass, non-edible items. That's important. You can't pray on anything which is not edible or where
Can't wear. It
exactly.
can't be worn and cannot be edited.
Exactly. So try to find. If you couldn't find anything, of course, in this case, you can abort your salah. If there's enough time, of course, there's a couple of hours, let's say, to the sunset, for example. Then, of course, you can get turba alternative and pray again that salah.
Ahsan. Shaykh, thank you. But before we leave, one final question. I believe it came in from one of our viewers earlier. That is in regards to if an individual went to a majlis and was reciting the Latmiyat, the Qasida, so forth, performed in the Aza of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and on the way home in the car tragically had an accident or something and died. This person, are they considered a shaheed?
Well, according to a narration which says, "Man mata ala hubbi ali Muhammad mata shahida," the one who dies with the love of Ali Muhammad salamullah alayhi, he would die as a shaheed. Inshallah, he will get, or she will get, the reward of the shaheed. Inshallah, the one who believes and he loves Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, and he would till the death, he would work for their cause and serve them at all times. Inshallah, may Allah bless this individual.
Inshallah. May Allah bless you, Shaykhna, for all the hard work and efforts that you do. May Allah bless all the viewers that have joined us today on Ahkam SOS. If you have a question, please send in your question via the WhatsApp, the email address, or alternatively give us a call. And inshallah, we'll be able to answer those questions on the next episode. We'll be back on Wednesday, inshallah, 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV. Join us then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.